Welcome to the Ultimate Dental Podcast, the place where you can learn how to create a dental practice and a business life that you love. Listen in with Dr. David Moffet as he interviews successful entrepreneurs and successful business people and successful dentists as they share their business successes, their stories, and their breakthrough ideas, sharing pearls of wisdom that you can take back to your practice and implement immediately so that you can have that great practice with more patients, higher profits, and less stress. This is the podcast where great dental practices meet with successful business processes. Thanks for tuning in to the Ultimate Dental Podcast, the podcast where thought leaders, industry experts, and thriving practice owners reveal their very best tips, tools, and strategies that will help you grow your dental practice faster. Now, here's your host, Dr. David Moffet.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Ultimate Dental Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. David Moffet in Burrawang in New South Wales, as you all know. And today gives me great pleasure to talk to a good friend of mine who I haven't seen or spoken to for a while now because of travel restrictions during COVID, Mr. Fred Joyal, who just told me in the prelim that he's relocated from sunny California to Rhode Island. Fred, it's just gone 5 o'clock in the afternoon over there in Rhode Island on a Sunday afternoon. Thank you for being a guest on the Ultimate Dental Podcast.
David, it's so great to reconnect with you, and I'm looking forward to just a wild and woolly conversation.
Well, the only rule I have is that there are really no rules to this podcast. It's purely conversational. And Fred, I met you, I think, for the first time in person at a Speaking Consulting Network event in Denver, I think it may have been. And I had read your book, your first book, and it was really a great pleasure to catch up and spend a few days with you at that event. And that became an annual occurrence for both of us for a number of years, catching up. And now you've written 3 great books, 2 about dentistry and 1 now about boldness, which is required in all aspects of life. So there's a lot to talk about, as well as being a podcaster in dentistry and also a podcaster about boldness as well. So Fred, how did you get into dentistry? Some people get in because they become dentists, but you weren't a dentist. What brought you into dentistry?
It was the opportunity to advertise for dentists, because that was my career before I got started in the dental industry. And this was way back in the 90s when I was working in an ad agency, and somebody came to me and they said, we have this phone number, 800 Dentist, which is a toll-free number. And those numbers had come out in the previous few years. And this person hadn't done anything with it, but thought it could be a business. And I was young and naive enough to think I could pull off something like that. And so I started a dentist referral service based on that phone number and ads that I created. And I had a business partner who was really good at sales and operations. And together we both wanted our own business. And so we beat the streets for 6 months in Los Angeles trying to find dentists to go along with the idea. And we found 18 dentists by June of 1986 and launched with some radio ads. And we got 50 phone calls the very first day. And it was this moment where we just had this flash like, wow, this could actually work. And so we just kept adding advertising dollars and spending more money, on bigger ads, like eventually on television, and adding more and more and more dentists, and then adding cities. And we ran a live call center. So basically we had more information on the dentists than they could get anywhere else. We were like Yelp and Google combined before they existed. And it turned into a business that was doing, at its peak, almost $50 million a year, and a nationwide referral service. And so it went way better than we thought it was going to go, and went on for a really long time. I was CEO for 28 years.
My goodness. Well, that's a great success story. And the best part I like about it, that you didn't know what it was going to become when you started it. And often businesses are like that, aren't they? That people say, well, let's see what happens. And then it takes you in a direction that, you just follow the wave, it creates the business for you. You've just fallen on your feet there. Congratulations on that success. What's it like dealing with dentists as clients?
Oh, they're generally really wonderful people, but they're a really needy client from a business standpoint, because that's not their training and not their bent, not their inclination. And so they tend to make poor business decisions because they make them impulsively and in an uninformed way, because they don't have the time to do what I do and what I did running a business, which is run my business all day. They have to be doing dentistry all day in order to make money. So everything else they do keeps them from earning money and is not one of their strengths. I mean, and that was then when I started, and for the decades I ran it. Now, dentists can't figure out how to market their practice because everybody's trying to figure out how to market their business. It changes every 45 days at this point. And so it's a whole different world, and it's quite daunting. But we got to help thousands and thousands of dentists to really thrive and just focus on their dentistry. And that's what my books help them to do too, is to give them sort of a business education on creating a patient experience rather than just advertising and hoping they're going to find the right patients, which isn't what happens.
Well, it's exactly the truth, isn't it? The people who you want as customers, you have to treat them as people rather than, in rudimentary terms, a mouth with a credit card. That won't be a sustainable business if that's all you treat them as. If you create an experience that keeps them coming back, wanting to come back, and sharing their stories, sharing their experiences, sharing their life with you, and the dentistry is just a byproduct of the visit rather than being the reason for the visit, then you can really grow a successful business. And I'm glad you used those words, patient experience, because I think in your first book, Everything is Marketing, really got that feeling that that you were looking at the marketing. But the second book, Becoming Remarkable, was more about being that person that people wanted to talk to rather than that person that people wanted to be doing their dentistry.
Yeah, I mean, it's the second book was really, how do you create an experience that people can't resist talking about? Because at that point, and now going forward, it's permanent. Word of mouth used to be, one-on-one or one-on-two or three. Now it's one on everyone, and it's searchable and shareable and likable and undeletable. And that's a huge difference. And I wanted to help doctors transition their thinking to realize that word of mouth could go their way or could go against them very heavily in the digital world if they're focused on it, or if they're not paying attention to it. Your reputation is being built online, whether you are actively involved in it or not. And that's when you understand that, then you realize you have to step in and control it.
Let's talk about that deeper, because I've been away from dental practice ownership, for 11 years now. And I retired because of arthritis in my hands 8 years ago. So really, I haven't been at the coalface in terms of the thought processes that you were talking about, and that dentists are having to not only do dentistry, but in the back of their mind, it's kind of like being Bobby Fischer in one of those 12 people around you playing chess against you at the same time. You're thinking in different places and 5 moves ahead on every board. That's what it's like trying to do the dentistry and then wondering why there's a phone ringing more than 3 times. Why are those people chatting when they're in another room when they should be drilling teeth? All that sort of stuff. What is it that is keeping people coming to the dentist now, and what can dentists do with their business marketing and the marketing of themselves that can help them have a more successful practice than they could ever imagine?
So the basic thing is that they need to understand that their practice will be built on 2 pillars: how people trust them. In other words, their perceived trustworthiness and the perceived value of the dentistry that they offer and of dentistry in general. Both of those things are incredibly subjective. They are not facts about you. Your trustworthiness, David, and how people who trust you, it's subjective why they trust you. You could be the biggest con artist ever, and that's how con artists succeed, is people trust them. I don't think that's true about you, but that's the, we build trust by all of these subtle little cues, but we don't buy from people we don't trust. It doesn't matter. And then we have to value the dentistry that they're offering. In other words, it's got to be worth the money and the time and the discomfort. And so you have to be doing all of these non-dental things, because it's not about the dentistry. It's not about how many courses you've had. It might be about the technology you have, because a lot of that technology makes the dentistry go faster and go better. Whether it's, CAD/CAM dentistry, where you can do a crown in a single visit, or Invisalign, where they don't need brackets. Any of these things that make dentistry more comfortable or go quickly builds their appreciation of the value of dentistry. But you have to do those things that show that you care about them more than you care about money. Because as soon as they feel it's about the money, they don't trust your diagnosis, your recommendation for what they need. So it's an interesting challenge. But what dentists and so you want to be attracting patients. There's a whole soliloquy I could do on how that's changed in the past year. But it's everything that happens after, with everybody on your team. Your biggest marketing tool is your team and the experience that they create, because you can't create it alone. And they will build your trust and build the value, or they will diminish it based on what they do.
So many questions I've got. I'm going to come back to that soliloquy that you mentioned about how attracting patients has changed in the last 45 days. I'm going to come back to that. But in terms of the team, you're absolutely right. And it didn't hit me about this until way back years ago. I went to have a consultation about LASIK eye surgery because I wore glasses from the age of 15, and I saw that people are now not going to have to wear glasses. In fact, I even wore contact lenses at my wedding because I thought, no, there's going to be a day when people won't need glasses. But I visited an ophthalmic surgeon, and it must have been 3 hours in that office with all the people measuring and drops and all this sort of stuff before I finally met the surgeon. And by the time I'd met him, I'd already decided this is the place I'm going to go to get my done. So I'd already had one done elsewhere that I wasn't happy with the treatment, PRK. So I went to this guy, and it hit me, Fred, that same scenario would work in dentistry, that I needed to make myself less important than I'd been taught in the patient initial visit, so that they learned to love the team and enjoy the team and enjoy the process before I came in and said, yes, I agree with what they've said is going to happen. And that's how it was. And the funny thing is, Fred, I tell all my clients this, that's a movie. And they go, what movie? And I go, it's a famous movie. And they go, what movie? I say, it's the Wizard of Oz, because by the time Dorothy meets the wizard, she's already decided in her mind that whole journey that he was the only person who was going to get her back to Kansas. So when she met him, didn't matter that he was a little old man behind the curtain. The journey was the process that had her believing. And that's all we've got to do as dentists, is step back and let our team do the work. And then we can just focus on running the business in the back and also doing the dentistry, rather than trying to pretend that we are the business. So it's interesting. I love also where you said, word of mouth is not as important, the physical word of mouth. And I found that an interesting thing through my career, that as I started to market, I found that the people who said it was word of mouth were the people who just didn't market their dentistry. They won't do it running the ads and the yellow pages and the early online stuff. They were relying on people telling other people. But, you can get two people who are neighbors who don't know that they're going to the same dentist because they never talk about it, and yet they're both big fans. So sometimes, people don't want to know that.
Yeah, it's changed, and certainly it's very different in an urban situation. I mean, 800 dentists survived primarily on urban alienation. People would live in the same apartment building, would know no one in that building. Whereas if they lived in a rural area, they knew everybody because they were in the volunteer fire department together. They knew each other. And they would, well, why would I call that number? to get a dentist, so I'll just ask somebody down the street, and it's only one dentist anyway. So you just have to hope he didn't pass away or she didn't, move to the city. You know, this generation, you're looking at people under 35 now, they don't do anything without reading reviews from strangers, not their friends, strangers on Yelp or on Google or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. That's where they're gathering their information and their decision-making process. And I've adapted a lot of that behavior, but because it's actually valuable. I've learned now to read through the reviews on Amazon, for example, before I buy something, because it looks right. And then I read somebody and somebody says, yeah, but if you want to use this in this situation, this isn't the one. This thing isn't for you because it doesn't like being outside. And I went, oh, that's interesting. That's what I was buying it for. So that is a tectonic shift in how people gather information. And so if you're not adapted to that, you're hoping that your patients are out there recommending you to people, and they're not.
Well, they're not. I remember the water board moved to my part of Sydney. The Sydney water board moved to my part of Sydney, and I got two patients within a week who sat opposite each other on the same floor at the water board, and they both identical ages, almost identical treatment plans. Masses of amalgams needed replacing, but they didn't. They both found me through my marketing, not by talking to each other. They then shared their journey that went for months for each of them, but it was quite bizarre. I said, "Don't you guys talk to each other?" No, it just came up accidentally. I've got to go to the dentist. I'm going to the dentist. Yeah. So it can be like that. How is you just mentioned 5 different review sites: Yelp, Google, Facebook, Instagram. People, can they get into review stagnation? Is that the word? Is that a word, or did I just make it up?
Stagnation, but let's take a syllable out there, and you'll be all the way home on that.
Oh, that's like preventative then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can they stagnate from looking at too many reviews?
No, I think that they have developed a shorthand where they look at 2 things. They look at the star rating, and it's got to be 4.5 to 5, and they look at the review count. So if it's a 4.5 stars and 250 reviews, they may not read any of the reviews. They may read the first or the second one. The third thing they're going to look at is how old the reviews are. They're going to look down and say, wait a minute, this one's from the newest one's from a year ago. That's not what I don't want to know that. I want people to, that just were there, and they do that with all sorts of things. But the more health oriented it is, the more they will read the reviews, and the more serious the treatment they need. If let's say they're looking for knee surgery, or they're looking for a full set of veneers, they're going to read way more of the reviews than they would if they're just looking for a prophy or a car wash. And so that's the other important thing to remember. Don't buy into, like a dentist says, people don't read reviews. They just look at the star ratings. Yeah, unless they're looking for something in their health when it comes to their body, which is you. Mm. So it's don't fall into these, common knowledge mistakes.
It can be quite funny. My dentist just retired, and this is in the country where I live now. He was the most expensive dentist. So on the local group, people say, I need a good dentist. I say, well, I'm a retired dentist. This is where I go. But it's interesting. My wife went to 3 or 4 other dental practices before she settled on somebody else after he retired. And one of them says, sounds like you've been to every dentist in the villages. You're getting around. But again, you're right. Some of the places that were getting the reviews weren't matching her expectations as somebody with high expectations about skill, persona, and customer service as well. And those things all matter. As a dentist, I remember seeing patients whose dentistry in their mouths, when they came to me first time, was like, oh, this is rubbish, but they swore blindly what a wonderful man had treated them for so long and how sad they were that he had retired. So it's not always about the margins.
The old joke is that transfers over to dentistry is somewhere there is the worst dentist in Australia, and somebody has an appointment with her tomorrow. or him. So, and they don't know. Then, you know what? We're not gonna experience shop dentistry. Not gonna let somebody work on one molar and then let somebody else try, 20, somewhere else. That's not what you do. And if they keep you out of pain and chewing okay, then most of the time you're not like you can't. You could pull. I could pull every chart in the dental practice's office and not tell you if he or she's a great practitioner or not. I know a lot about dentistry, but what does the average person do? They go by everything else. How nice is he? How does he listen? Does she understand my price sensitivity? Does she have Saturday hours? Or does she have the latest technology? And believe me, the Gen Z, they want to know that you are teched up because they have read about what the technology is. And when you don't have it, they're wondering why. They see something, and a lot of them, they'll leave the dentist that they grew up with because they haven't added new technology. We used to get those calls. This is years ago. We would get those calls at 800 dentists. People say, well, yeah, I left him. He was great, but he just hadn't added any new technology in 20 years. So I switched to another dentist. So, and people hate leaving, as you know, people hate trying to find another dentist. They hate it when theirs retires or they move away and have to find somebody. 800 Dentists was based on that people hate the process of finding a dentist, never mind going. And so, but they want, you better be up to date on the technology because it does make for a better, faster experience and very often a better quality. I mean, if you're getting implants placed and somebody hasn't done a CBCT scan on them, get the heck out of that practice. That's my advice to patients because he's might as well do it blindfolded.
Yeah, that's the truth. They had, when I sold my practice to a corporate, they struck a deal and put CBCTs in, which were fantastic, especially for looking at airways and breathing issues. And then that deal fell apart for them with the radiologists who were reading those images. They said, "Oh, we're pulling that out because I think the radiologist paid for the machines, and we're going to give you an OPG machine." I said, "You may as well leave it in plastic. It's useless. Well, I'm not going to use it."
Yeah. Why not bring in some film while you're at it? We'll do the 2-dimensional black and white X-rays on film,
So you're right about that technology. Now, here's one from back in the day, which I learned from a hairdresser, and my hairdresser was telling me that her clients would leave frustrated from a hairdresser if the hairdresser became pregnant and then was off work or quit work. And so I've always found, and I've heard this from a doctor too. I said, "You're selling your practice at age 65. He said, "It's not sellable." He said, "My clients have aged with me and really they're going to want to go and find a younger doctor a dentist, because they don't want to have to replace him after having to replace me." And is that still a situation, or are the public now, is the choice of dentist so good that they actually don't care if every 5 years they have an aging dentist who retires, and are they seeking to find somebody who's going to outlive them as their dentist?
I think because they don't like the process of finding another dentist, that they will look for somebody younger. They don't want another dentist to age out on them. They want one to take them to the finish line because they were dreading their dentist retiring, and that dentist finally did, and they go, "Oh, damn, I got to find somebody else." And so now they're not looking for somebody right out of school. They want somebody experienced, but they're going to look for somebody in mid-30s to 40, and calculating, okay, they're going to be practicing till they're 65. I got 25 years, 30 years with them. they're going to outlive me. That's what I want. So I think that's definitely part of the decision-making process, that I don't want somebody who's inexperienced. They're not buying into that mentality, because the reality is many dentists who are in their 60s haven't added technology and haven't gotten the CE that they need to provide modern dentistry. And as soon as that patient figures that out, then the quest for the dentist, they move down a generation or a generation and a half.
So I guess one of the big things since I retired clinically is scanners. Now there is no need for impressions anymore at all. And there's no plaster models for crowns. Everything's done digitally. So that's a true litmus test to ask when somebody phones your office. Do you take impressions or, or do you have digital scanners?
Well, I tell people, in my lectures and in my book as well, that people have three things they don't like in a practice. They don't like shots, they don't like drilling, and they don't like impression material. A lot of people have a gag reflex. I meet more people who can't swallow a pill. It's like I take all my vitamins at once. I take like 12 in one mouthful, wash them down with a glass of water. But there's a whole bunch of people that impression material is one of the most unpleasant things they can experience. And as soon as somebody does a digital scan and says, we don't do that anymore. Now, sometimes you're going to do that maybe on a high-end veneer case, but most of the time, that's totally unnecessary. And don't you want that information as a dentist? Don't you want, I want a dentist who wants my teeth now the way they are, so that as I age, she can look back and go, okay, this is what it looks like. So if she's making a new crown for me, she knows what the old one looked like, even though I broke it off and swallowed it.
Well, exactly. And so the scanner is more than just something in treatment. It's actually a historical record as well from day one of meeting your new dentist. Yeah, very, very important. Let's go back to that soliloquy can you spell it?
So I could probably take a stab at a spelling bee answer to soliloquy.
We'll put it in the
Soliloquy. Oh, Quy. All right, never mind. We're wasting valuable time, David, taxing Fred's capability. But yeah, so for many years, you marketed your practice through your website and through maybe Google ads and maybe some Yelp ads. And then all of a sudden it started to shift to the importance of reviews and having an abundance of them, which means you had to get your patients to do that. And that made your website important in a different way because Google was also looking at your website in a different way. It used to be a static thing. Then it became a constantly changing thing because Google needed your website to change on a regular basis in order to rank you properly. What everybody is terming as SEO. So that's how people were finding a dentist. They were doing a search. Now they may have gone through social media. So you have to be a presence everywhere in how that medium works. You have to have a good high SEO quality website that looks modern, is fully optimized, doesn't have stock photography on it, has video on it, video patient testimonials. By the way, the most powerful marketing tool ever created for a practice, a patient video testimonial, because you can use it everywhere. You can put it in your Google profile. You can put it in your Yelp profile. You can put it on YouTube. You can put it on your website. You can email it to your patients. It's on Facebook, on Instagram, all of these places where you can put somebody, a stranger, talking about why they go to you and not somebody else and how happy they are about that. You have to be in all of those places. And now you have to have information out there in a way that AI finds you. Because if you're 25 or under, and this is changing every day, it goes up another year, I think, in age. They don't start on Google anymore in their searches. They start on ChatGPT. That is the first place on their phone that they open to do a search. And so they're doing that. That is a tectonic shift in how people are gathering information. They are using chat as their funnel to finding information. They're getting a much more engaged answer. And if you're using it, which most people are, you know how robust the response is. I just decided to buy a new TV, and I said, tell me the difference between Samsung and in the mid-range of cost and its competitors. And then it starts to ask me questions. Well, do you watch TV in the dark? Do you watch movies more than you watch television programs? And I went like, why? And they said, well, because there's a difference between QLED and OLED TVs. The OLED has truer darks and they're better for watching movies. I went, never knew that. I would have not found that out if I had searched, even Samsung's site maybe, but who knows? But it did it for me in, a second and a half. And so this is the shift that's coming for everybody and for everything. And how you keep up with it, I don't even have an answer. It's just like you have to be engaged, and everything that you have out there has to be full of current information. It's because it's going to look at your website. It's going to look at every bit of your website. It's going to look at your social media. It's going to look at your LinkedIn page. It's going to look at your blog. It's going to look at any articles written about you because it can look at everything. And that's how people are going to make their decisions. So be prepared. And also, there are ad agencies that are using AI to craft more and more effective messages for the ads that they put on social media and on Google. And so as those ads get smarter, your ads get dumber if you're not doing it. But it's just like everybody's racing in the same direction with the technology. So if you're not using it, you're falling behind. If you're using it, you're barely keeping up.
That's an interesting question, because I often hear people say that. Will ChatGPT and other AI create too much similarity in certain things that then how do we differentiate between one or the other, because they're all getting that large language model base for the information?
What it does, though, is it allows you to be specific enough where you say, if let's say you're looking for a dentist and you say, I'm looking for a dentist that's open on Saturday, that takes this insurance, that has the latest technology, been practicing more than 15 years, and is 5 to 3 miles from my house or from where I work. All of that stuff that I might have been able to tell you on 800 Dentists, but you would have to call me and we would do a search. Now you can ask your phone that, and it would come back with some questions and say, well, what's more important? Because I have the dentist you're looking for, but she's 5 miles away, but she's exactly what you're looking for. 2.5 miles, I have somebody, but they don't have Saturday hours, or the Saturday hours are only every other Saturday. And so the more you are precise in how you treat and who you're treating and everything about your practice, the more chat will find you the right patients. It will actually be to your advantage as long as what you offer is accurate. I mean, the worst thing you can do with marketing is present yourself in one way, and when they get to your place, that is not the truth. And that's true of any business at this point, because what happens? That stuff goes out online. Like, yeah, it's supposed to be this. I mean, you read it with products all the time. They say it does this. It doesn't even fit. It's not even the right size for what they say. They don't even get their sizes right. And you're all done at that point, because people just go on and say, yeah, that happened to me. Yeah, that happened to me. Yeah, that happened to me.
That's really important. I tell my clients that all the time too, that marketing message they send out, they have to have a match when they phone your office. They have to have a match when they turn up at your office. You can't be a cosmetic dentist when it's up a rickety old staircase in a dark, dingy old building. Even if your clinic is all the modern stuff inside there, that walk of shame from the street to your door.
If the reception area hasn't been remodeled in 15 or 20 years, they're not going to believe you're a cosmetic dentist. You may be so incredibly trained on the latest technology with using the best labs. They won't believe, because it's the same magazines that they saw when they were kids on the table.
Yeah. Do people even have magazines like that anymore?
Let's hope not.
It's all iPads now.
Yes. I mean, that's what it's got to be. And and everybody's going to be using their phone anyway. So you better have some Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
and have something that says, how do you log into the Wi-Fi? Because they're going to come and ask you. So you might as well just tell them.
Yeah.
And not block it. It's like, oh, we don't like, we don't want to pay for Wi-Fi. Yeah, I guess that's a marketing cost, your Wi-Fi.
Of course it is. Let's transgress now to boldness. And you've been telling me before we hit the record button today about how important having an ability to be bold is. And it's true. And I like bold because it's a very short, it's a word that sounds exactly how you have to behave. It's strong, it's bang, bold. There's no confusion as to what bold is. How does boldness affect success in business for dentists?
So the reason I wrote this book is because I learned at a young age, being a complete introvert, that boldness is a life skill that you can develop. It is not a personality trait. It is something you can expand and grow, and it's what builds your confidence. It's taking bold action when you're not confident that builds your confidence. If you're waiting to be confident in order to take bold action, it's never going to happen, because if you're confident, there's no risk involved. You know how it's going to go. Bold action is you don't know how it's going to go, and you're comfortable being uncomfortable, learning how it's going to go, testing how it's going to go, taking risks, trying things. But in the dental industry, it's the difference between average and extremely successful. Ultimate success. Since we're on that podcast, that's what you're looking for, because it takes boldness for you to present a large case with confidence and then shut up and not backpedal. Just wait and see what the patient says. It takes boldness to wait until they tell you, are you crazy? That's insanely expensive. Or conversely, they may say, okay, when do we start? Or do you have financing for that? Or, geez, I have one more question about this. I'd love to do it, but can we get it done by my wedding? You don't know unless you shut up. Now, if you're the average dentist, you go, well, this is going to be $17,500. But if you don't have that money, then we can just, we could just fix a couple of things. That'll be like $2,500. Or we just wait and we could just watch. You don't know, because you already backed away from the price because it scared you too much to say it out loud. And I think every dentist has a ceiling on the number they're comfortable presenting with. And it's a good friend of mine in the industry said, I think it relates to how much money they have in cash in their bank account. That controls the number. Because I've seen dentists who presented $120,000 cases without batting an eye. And I know dentists who can't present 10. And the patient needs it. The reality is, if somebody's come to you, offer them optimal dentistry, because it's going to be the best investment they'll ever make. So if you need to shift your mindset to that, but you have to be bold enough then to offer it to people. And your team has to be bold enough to reinforce it, because you may have a ceiling of presenting at 20,000 or 30,000. Your team thinks 5,000 is crazy expensive. So they'll tell the patient, oh, you don't have to do that right now. Unless you train them and say, look, it's not up to you to decide what our patients can afford. It's up to you to reinforce my diagnosis, my recommendation. It takes boldness to give feedback to your team before it builds up emotionally and you explode and say, you're late all the time, which they're not. It takes boldness to have difficult conversations as soon as possible. It takes boldness to fire employees that you need to get the heck out of your practice. It takes boldness to fire patients that you need to get the heck out of your practice. It takes boldness for your team members to every day choose an attitude and leave their issues at the door. And it takes boldness for them to say to patients, we need to get you scheduled for your next hygiene appointment, instead of letting them leave. It takes boldness to bring up financing. It takes boldness to ask for the number one marketing tool that's ever been created, a video testimonial. If you just asked 5 people a week and one of them did it, you'd have 50 at the end of the year. You'd have a superabundance of the best marketing tool ever created. Do you know how many dentists will never ask? How many team members would never ask? Most of them.
Yeah, true. Very true. It's I still remember that day that I asked my first patient, or told them that they needed to put a crown over a beautifully constructed 2-pin MODL amalgam. And I said, I was sweating little brown giblets, I was so scared of what he was going to say to me. And he said, yeah, fine, let's do it straight away. It wasn't that hard. Maybe I was lucky I got a yes on my first, but it certainly improved the way I presented, knowing that what I offered him as the next step was far better than what I'd just done for him. Looked good as long as he got out the door and didn't eat on it, but a crown, that's going to protect it forever. So I learned a lot from that. But you're right, being able to dismiss somebody who's causing your business angst and pain. I've met dentists, and I know of a dentist who people would tell me this guy had somebody in his office for 25 years that he had been trying to dismiss. That's a lifetime of annoyance. Imagine taking that baggage home every night.
Yeah, and it's unfair to your team. And when you do it, when you say the patient isn't always right, and you sit down with your team and say, one of our goals this year is we are going to dismiss 20% of our patients. The pain in the ass people, we are going to give them the option for us to find them another dentist and send the records to that dentist, and we'll help them find that person. But we can't treat them anymore because they cancel over and over again, or they're never happy and we're redoing work. We're losing money on those people, and we're losing our will to live because of these people. And what happens is 50% of them will suddenly fall in line because they know they're a pain in the ass, and they get away with it in most places. In some places, they don't. Make it a place where they don't. And the other 10% will leave, and you'll make more money because you're not making any money on those people. Most of the time, if you looked at it, you're losing money on those people. So do you like to lose money? Are you that timid that you'd rather lose money every year on somebody and lose employees? Or are you going to be bold enough to say, Evelyn, we can't seem to make you happy, so we're going to help you find another dentist? And she goes, what do you mean? We're going to send your records to the dentist of your choice. So we recommend you find that dentist, and please let us know who that is, and we'll send those records over. What? Don't bother to make an appointment because we're going to see you anymore.
Love it.
You're breaking up. You've never broken up with anybody. That's the conversation you need to have. And guess what? Just like most of the breakups you've had, you're glad you did it. Every day after the breakup, you go, wow, I'm lighter. I'm feeling better about myself and my day. And you're not married to these patients. You'd owe them nothing. You are a medical professional creating ideally a wonderful place to be treated in a surgical suite. And if they don't appreciate that, go away.
One of my friends once told me that that it's the same with dismissing recalcitrant team members. He said, do it properly. Don't try and do it on the cheap, because whatever it costs you to get them out of your office as quickly as possible, in a year's time, you'll say that was money well spent. And so, I advise my clients that you want to just give them 2 weeks pay. And don't even have them hang around for 2 weeks trying to get value out of that 2 weeks, because there will be no value. Sometimes it's like Benedict Arnold turns up.
Oh, no. Yeah, it's 2 weeks notice, but you leave right now and never come back. And here's a check, and here's all your vacation money, and here's, 30 days, 60 days, sign this a severance agreement, which means you can't sue us. I mean, do it properly. And that's the thing about being bold enough to do it before you're so emotionally charged. You just go, you are so fired. Get out of here, leave, never come back. Guess what? You're going to get sued.
Yeah.
Because
it's very.
What you didn't know is they were 4 months pregnant, and now you're going to be enjoying that level of litigation. When you don't overcharge things with emotion, you do them in a rational way. But, I've said this in my books and in every lecture I've ever given, every business person I've ever dealt with, and including myself, and I'm talking billionaires that I know personally, they will say, I have never regretted firing anyone. I only regretted how long I waited to do it. Always. That is the uniform experience. We all give them too much rope. And 9 times out of 10, you find out that they were doing more damage than you even realized. Because then the team members go, I didn't really want to tell you this, but she used our supply closet as her personal supply closet. That's why we're always out of toilet paper. And you go like, she stole the toilet paper? And it's like, yeah, that's who she was. But we didn't want to bring it up. It's like, why not? But, oh, yeah, because she was vindictive. We didn't want it. Yeah, great. I got somebody who's vindictive in the office. Excellent. So just pull the trigger on that stuff. You'll be so happy. So, yeah, and like you say, buy them out, buy them off, buy their departure. Here, bon voyage, go away.
You mentioned it as we started talking about boldness, that it is a learned skill. How long does it take somebody to really learn to become bold, or to get a good level of boldness, initial boldness, so that they can then make those big changes?
I could get somebody to be bolder, like 20% bolder than they are right now in 3 weeks, maybe faster. Because I would just have them start doing stuff that's uncomfortable, but there's no consequence to it. Just start smiling at everybody you meet and register the fact that some people don't smile back, and don't take it on. You can't take it on if you do it with everybody. You inure to the fact that some people aren't going to smile back. Some people are having the worst day of their life. Some people don't smile. Some people have bad teeth. And some people are socially maladjusted. You don't care. Smile at everybody. Then take it up a notch. Say hi to everybody you meet. More people won't say hi back. More people won't make eye contact. Let it go. And all of a sudden, your boldness expands because there are no consequences. Then you take it to the next level. You start complimenting people every day. You talk to strangers. It will build your boldness muscle by talking to strangers, because you're uncomfortable and it goes really well. You just say, that haircut looks amazing on you. That suit looks great. That color you're wearing, it really accents your eyes. And have no agenda, no ulterior motive for saying it. It's a gift. It's you are being the voice of upliftment to a complete stranger. And you know what? They'll feel better. You'll brighten their day, and that will brighten yours. And you will become addicted to it. And then you'll say, I need to stretch. I need to do more uncomfortable stuff because I'm feeling myself becoming bolder. I had a dentist who had read my book, and she said, you know what? I was so depressed about how things were going in my life, and read your book, and I just started smiling at people every day, and everything has changed. She just said, like, I suddenly feel like I'm in control of my state, and that it isn't, it isn't as bad as I thought. And now she does crazy things. I said, like, go sing karaoke, even if you can't sing. You know why? Neither can half the people up on stage, and they're having a great time, because this is where you get to go and sing badly and have fun. You're outside of the shower and you get to sing. But you know what? Nobody dies. But boldness, this is the principle. Boldness builds like a muscle, and you have to be uncomfortable. Just like when you exercise, the only way exercise works is if you are physically uncomfortable. And the way it works best is when you aim for failure. It's the rep you can't do. That's where the growth happens at optimal levels. When you've done 12 reps and you do 13 or you can barely do it, the 14th one that you can't do, that's when you know you've maxed out. You know why? You aimed for failure, because the only consequence of the failure was positive. It's the same thing building your boldness. When you do bold action, when the consequences are inconsequential, you get bolder, you get stronger, so that when it does matter, your reaction is to be bold, to say yes, to speak up, to stand up for somebody, to have that difficult conversation, to fire that person, to ask for feedback, to meet that person you want to meet and go and have a conversation with them, instead of going, oh, I should have talked to them, but they don't want to talk to me. Mm-hmm. So that's my third soliloquy, I think, of the podcast.
All right. Let's almost out of time, Fred. If I was a new dentist or I was a dentist setting up a new office in a new part of town, what would be the 3 things that I should do immediately to ensure that I've got more patients coming than I could imagine?
I would get involved in the community in as many ways as humanly possible. Town committees, programs, anything, any events, and engage your practice in those. Use your practice as a gathering place for stuff like that. Have your team get involved in stuff like that. Go to fairs and stuff like that in your town, whatever it is. Engage in your community. One of the most amazing ways to build your practice is to just be out there, letting people know that you exist. When you don't have patients, you have the need to just let people know that you exist. And then I would be every single patient that came in, I would give an incredible experience to, and I would have a video studio where you say, look, if you've had a great experience here, you can see I need a lot more patients, and we love this community and we want to bring as many people in like you. That's the important embedded compliment that gets them to do it. It's like, help us find more people like you for our practice because we love you. We love taking care of people like you. If you could do a quick 30-second video about your experience, we would really appreciate it. And if you don't like how it comes out, we'll erase it. But 9 times out of 10, it comes out great in the first try. And if you don't want to do it, that's fine. But I would be, symbolically on my knees, so to speak, asking for anybody to do that because you need that tool so that is on your website. That is in your Google profile. That is in all your social media. And it's on YouTube and it's transcribed everywhere so that Google can read it and chat can read it.
That's 2. What's the third one?
That's 2. The third one would be to make sure that your team is rewarded for recruiting patients. So they all need something in their hand that wherever they go, they can say, I work at this practice. If you want to come to this practice, if you want to come to this terrific practice that I work for, I can get you 50% off on your first cleaning. But here, and I'm going to write my name on this card. So it's the practice's card. She writes her name and says, tell them Cheryl sent you, and they will take 50% off and bonus the heck out of people who do that. Say it's $50 for every patient that comes in waving your card around or that says Cheryl sent me. Those not because you want to do advertising, but I can't tell you in your neighborhood what advertising is going to work. You're going to need some gambling money to start running Google ads because that's the game that you've got right now. And make sure that you're posting something on social media every day, Facebook and Instagram. Don't worry about Twitter. Don't worry about LinkedIn. But have content going out there that's about the experience of being, you got to do it. As the dentist, you got to start presenting yourself in social media. And if you're a young dentist, you know how to use social media. So start using it to present the kind of dentistry you offer and the kind of patients you want to treat. So
Excellent advice. Excellent advice, Fred. That's and what I like about that, and you gave me 4, I only asked for 3, but what I liked about that was that only one of them embraced technology and 3 of them were just about being better and being nicer and doing more stuff. Get out and meet the community, pay your staff better and be nice to people. All good advice. And there are no new fundamentals, as Jim Rohn used to say. The fundamentals have been there forever. There's no new ones. Let's go back to the fundamentals. And, used to say it's half a dozen things. What are the half a dozen things that make 80% of the difference? And just do those. And that's true. But we do need those technologies. And thanks for sharing about those, especially the Google reviews. It's just the video reviews, much better and easy to do with a phone.
And Google's eventually going to start offering that up as a search result. If you have them, it's not just going to offer up quotes from reviews and stuff like that. But if you're building a practice, before you start throwing money on ads, everyone you meet, everywhere you go, needs to know what you do and how they can get a hold of you. Everyone. And that takes boldness. And once you start doing it, and 1 out of 5 people says, I need a dentist. You seem like a great dentist. They will say that. You seem like a great dentist. Now, that is a ridiculous thing to say. Why? Because of the way they ordered their cheeseburger? You have no idea if they're a good dentist or not. They just seem like they would be a good dentist because they were outgoing.
Yes.
And that works. I mean, people say people buy from people they like. I take it to the next level because the world has changed so much. People buy from people they are charmed by. Be charming. In order to be charming, you need to be outgoing. In order to be outgoing, you need to be bolder. We buy from those who charm us. Do it. Develop it.
It's not difficult to stand out as somebody charming because not many people are doing it. And so if you can do it, you're immediately putting yourself in a different level of atmosphere, that rarefied air that people just want to know. They want to know you because you are charming.
Put down your damn phone. Let other people be on their phone. Let every other dentist in town be sitting there on her phone or his phone. And you're the one saying, what's your name? Where'd you go to school? Really? Where'd you go to high school? I'll bet I know somebody. I bet I know one of your teachers. It's so easy to engage people, but you can't do it when you're looking at your phone. It won't happen.
No.
So put your phone down and start engaging because everybody else, like you just said, David, everybody else is making it easier than ever. All the other advertising is going to get harder and harder and more complicated and cost you more money. But being outgoing and connecting with human beings will be more and more valuable and more successful because less and less people are doing it all the time and less people are good at it. You can get good at it. It's easy. And read my book. I'll talk you through all the ways you can do it. You'll be doing crazy boldness exercises. You'll be going through a door that says employees only to see what happens. Because you know what? Nothing will happen. And you'll go like, why didn't they throw me out? It's because the sign was, it was a scarecrow. It was there to keep you from going in. Nobody's going to stop you. And you just go, wow, I was really ready to stop myself. The number one thing I tell people to do if you want to become bolder is just learn to stop stopping yourself. Don't be the one to stop you. Let somebody else try. Because that's what nobody stops us more than we do.
Yes, true. Yeah. People pour water on their own fires.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's not good. Fred, we have run out of time. It's been great catching up with you, and you have shared so much in this podcast. If anybody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way they can reach you?
Of course, fredjoyal.com is my website, and you can access me there. You can schedule time with me if you want to talk to me. I speak all around the world on boldness, on dental practice marketing, on business in general, and patient experience and human connection and boldness. And of course, my book is available on Amazon. And David, I'm going to give you a special link that connects if they go to your show notes. It's the link that from anywhere in the world, it will go into the right place in Amazon and find the book.
All right.
And it's on Kindle. It's on Audible as well. And it's me reading it. So you get to hear me talking endlessly about this stuff.
Wow. Fred, thank you for that. I'll look forward to getting a copy of the book myself. I've just got to check whether I've got Super Bold. I know I have the other two, and I've got a ton of books. But if I've got it, I'm going to read it again. If I haven't got it, I'm going to be ordering it today. Thank you, Fred Joyal. It's been a pleasure having you as a guest on the Ultimate Dental Podcast. Really great to chat with you again.
Thank you, David, for having me. Great to see you.
Thank you for tuning in to another inspiring episode of the Ultimate Dental Podcast. We appreciate each and every one of you for being a part of our dental community and joining us each week on this incredible journey. If you found value in today's episode and you don't want to miss out on future episodes, packed with expert insights and actionable strategies, here's how you can stay connected with us. Firstly, hit that subscribe button. Whether you're listening on your favorite podcast platform or watching on our website, subscribing ensures you'll never miss an episode. Secondly, share the love. If you know a fellow dentist or colleague who could benefit from the wisdom and knowledge that we share here, please share our podcast with them. Also, please share the podcast on your socials by simply clicking on the social icons wherever you view or listen to this podcast. Together, we can all do our bit to elevate the dental profession. And finally, stay engaged with us. We love hearing from you. Your questions, comments, and feedback fuel our mission to provide the best content for your professional growth, your personal growth, and for your practice growth. Remember, your journey to creating a dental practice and a business life that you love is our mission, and we're excited to be your trusted guide along the way. Thank you for being a part of the Ultimate Dental Podcast. Until next time, keep smiling, keep striving, and keep on tuning in to the Ultimate Dental Podcast.